A routine traffic stop, barely a minute long, no speed. And yet, by the end of it, the driver walked away without a license for 6 months. Not because they were dangerous, but because they violated a rule that hadn't. That's what catches people off guard. The right now, there's one particular rule, number 3 on this list, that has already led to over 12,000 citations nationwide, with average fines nearing $500. Most of those drivers had no idea they were doing anything wrong. So the real question is, if that many people were caught that quickly, how many more are out there driving today completely unaware they're at risk? Because these aren't minor tweaks. This isn't about slightly exceeding the speed limit or missing a stop sign. These are major changes affecting how you drive, what you can have inside your car, how your behavior is monitored, and in some cases, whether your vehicle even allows you to drive. The unsettling part? You could follow every habit you've built over decades and still break the law the moment you get on the road. That's how narrow the margin for error has become in 2026. I'm going to walk you through 10 of these new rules, starting with the ones that seem small but are catching thousands of drivers, all the way up to the top 3, causing the biggest financial and legal consequences right now. More importantly, I'll show you exactly what to change starting today, so you don't end up as one of those statistics. Because once you understand how these are being enforced, it becomes clear why so many careful, experienced drivers are suddenly getting fined, penalized, or worse. For years, drivers relied on a simple instinct. That brief moment when a traffic light turns yellow, you judge the distance and either go or stop. That instinct no longer works. In 2026, that margin is gone. Many regions have now connected high-precision enforcement cameras directly to traffic signals. These systems track timing down to fractions of a second. Previously, there was often a small buffer, just enough time to clear the intersection safely. That buffer has disappeared. Now, if even part of your vehicle is behind the line when the light turns red, the system flags it instantly. No warning, no discretion, no conversation, just a ticket. And here's the key difference. These systems don't evaluate whether you drove safely. They only measure position and timing. Either you crossed in time or you didn't. That's it. In some places, these violations are also being shared with insurance providers. So one small mistake at the wrong moment could cost far more in the long run than the ticket itself. The challenge is that your instincts haven't changed, but the system has. Seeing yellow and deciding to go used to be reasonable. Now it can work against you. The safest choice today isn't to make it through, it's to stop every time. Because when there's zero margin for error, even a good driver can get penalized for doing what used to be normal. And the same strict approach is now being applied inside your car. You've heard "don't use your phone while driving" countless times. But in 2026, that rule has become far stricter. In many places, simply holding your phone while your vehicle is on the road is enough to trigger a violation. It doesn't matter if you're stopped at a red light. It doesn't matter if traffic isn't moving. If the engine is on and you're in a roadway environment, holding your phone can get you cited. What's surprising is how this is being enforced. Advanced camera systems can now detect when a driver has a device in their hand, even briefly. You don't need to be texting or scrolling, just holding the phone is enough. And the consequences go beyond fines. If you're involved in an accident and there's evidence your phone was in your hand, even if you weren't at fault, it can be used against you. That could mean reduced insurance coverage or denied claims. But here's where things become even more precise, and where many drivers are getting caught without realizing it. Even if you're not holding your phone, even if you're using a mount, you could still be in violation. New rules now regulate exactly where your phone can be placed inside your car. Not generally, not loosely, precisely. At first, the rules sound simple. Your device must not block your view of the road. But enforcement has become much stricter. Mounting your phone in the center of your windshield, something millions of drivers have done for years, is now often considered an obstruction. That includes placements just below the rearview mirror. The only consistently safe areas tend to be low on the windshield or on the dashboard. Anything else can fall into a gray area, and that gray area is no longer being treated leniently, and the real impact shows up when something goes wrong. Even in situations where you're not at fault, something as small as where your phone was mounted can be used during investigations or insurance reviews. The reality is simple. Driving hasn't just evolved, it's been redefined. And if you're still driving the way you did even a year ago, there's a real chance you're already out of compliance without realizing it. That's exactly why so many people are being caught off guard, and why understanding these changes now matters more than ever. Most drivers aren't getting caught because they're reckless. They're getting caught because they're unaware. And that's what makes this shift so different from anything we've seen before. It's no longer about obvious mistakes. It's about everyday habits that quietly became violations overnight. Which brings us to one of the biggest changes happening right now, and one that's affecting more drivers than almost anything else on this list. For years, driving was built on trust. You controlled the car, you made the decisions, you were responsible. But in 2026, that dynamic is starting to change. Newer vehicles are now being equipped with built-in monitoring systems that track behavior in real time. Speed patterns, braking habits, lane positioning, even how smoothly you accelerate. At first, these systems were designed for safety, collision prevention, lane assistance, driver alerts. But now, that same data is being used in ways most drivers never expected. In some regions, insurance companies are gaining access to driving behavior data directly from vehicles or companion apps. That means your premium isn't just based on your history anymore, it's based on how you drive every single day. Hard braking? That's logged. Rapid acceleration? Logged. Consistent speeding, even slightly over the limit? Also logged. And over time, those patterns can raise your rates, even if you never get a ticket. What makes this especially concerning is that many drivers don't even realize this tracking is active. It's buried in settings, hidden in agreements, or enabled by default when certain features are turned on. So now the question isn't just, are you driving safely? It's, are you driving in a way that the system approves of? Because those are no longer the same thing. And that leads directly into another major shift, one that's happening before you even start driving. Remote enforcement. In several areas, authorities now have the ability to flag vehicles digitally before an officer ever sees them. Expired registration, unpaid tickets, suspended licenses. Instead of waiting for a routine stop, systems can now automatically identify vehicles through license plate recognition and issue alerts in real time. That means you could be driving normally, no violations, no suspicious behavior, and still be pulled over because of something already in the system. Even more surprising, in some cases, notifications and penalties are issued without any traffic stop at all. You park, you go about your day, and later a notice appears, digitally or by mail. No interaction, no warning, just a consequence. At this point, a pattern should be becoming clear. The system is shifting away from human judgment and toward automated enforcement. It's faster, it's more precise, and it leaves almost no room for interpretation. Which brings us to one of the most impactful changes of all, the one that's quietly costing drivers the most money right now: dynamic speed enforcement. Traditionally, speed limits were fixed. You knew the number and you stayed within it. But now, in many areas, speed limits can change in real time based on conditions. Traffic flow, weather, construction activity, even time of day. Digital signs update instantly, and enforcement systems update with them. So if the speed limit drops from 60 to 45 and you don't notice immediately, you could already be in violation. And unlike before, where an officer might use discretion, automated systems don't. They simply record the speed and issue the penalty. So where does all of this leave you? It comes down to one simple reality. Driving in 2026 isn't just about skill anymore. It's about awareness. Awareness of rules that change faster than ever. awareness of systems that monitor more than ever, and awareness that even small Pravichnyi actions can now carry real consequences. Because the drivers getting hit the hardest right now aren't the worst ones. They're the ones who didn't realize the rules had already changed. And if there's one takeaway from everything you've seen so far, it's this. Don't assume your habits are still safe. Verify them, adjust them, and stay ahead of the system before it catches up to you. Most people don't even realize these rules exist yet, but now you do. And that awareness is the difference between getting caught off guard and staying one step ahead. If you want to keep up with how quickly these laws are evolving, and they are evolving fast, you need to stay informed. Because what comes next isn't about small fines or minor inconveniences. We're now entering the part where the consequences become serious. Financially, legally, even criminally. One of the biggest examples of this shift comes down to something every car has: your license plate. In 2026, several regions have redefined what counts as a license plate violation, and the definition is much broader than most drivers expect. This isn't just about intentionally hiding your plate. Now, anything that interferes with how a camera reads it can be considered a violation. That includes plate covers, decorative frames, tinted shields, even clear protectors. If it affects visibility to automated systems in any way, it can be flagged. And in some areas, this isn't being treated as a simple ticket anymore. Depending on how it's interpreted, it can escalate into a much more serious offense, especially if there's any assumption that the obstruction could help avoid tolls or enforcement systems. That means higher fines, mandatory court appearances, and in extreme cases, long-term legal consequences. What makes this especially risky is how common these items are. Many vehicles come with frames installed by dealerships. Others have covers added for protection or appearance. For years, none of this raised concern. Now, those same items can create real liability, and enforcement is increasing. Officers and automated systems are both being used to identify anything that prevents a plate from being perfectly readable, not just to a person, but to a camera. So the safest move is simple. Keep your plate completely clear. No covers, no frames, no modifications. If that feels strict, the next shift goes even further. It's not just about your vehicle anymore. It's about whether you're allowed to be driving it at all in real time. In 2026, many systems have become fully connected. Insurance status, registration, and driving eligibility can now be updated instantly across enforcement networks. If your insurance lapses, even briefly due to a missed payment, that information can be recorded almost immediately, and from there, it becomes visible to enforcement systems. That means your vehicle can be identified as uninsured without any interaction. You could be driving normally, unaware of any issue, and still be flagged. And if you are stopped, the consequences are no longer minor. In some areas, driving without active insurance can lead to immediate vehicle impoundment. Not a warning, not a grace period, immediate action. But there's another layer to this that many drivers don't realize. Modern vehicles are increasingly collecting data: driving patterns, braking behavior, acceleration habits. That information can now play a role in how insurance companies evaluate risk. If you choose to share that data, your rates may adjust based on your behavior. If you choose not to share it, some systems may still classify you as higher risk by default. So the shift becomes clear. It's no longer just about what happens visibly on the road. It's also about what your vehicle records behind the scenes. And that leads to the most significant change of all. Not just how driving is monitored, but who or what is in control. Newer vehicles are beginning to include advanced monitoring systems designed to detect signs of impairment or unsafe driving. These systems analyze things like eye movement, head position, steering consistency, lane behavior. The goal is safety, but the impact is much broader. If the system detects behavior it considers unsafe, it may respond, not just with a warning, but by limiting how the vehicle operates. In some cases, it can prevent the vehicle from continuing normally. That represents a fundamental shift. Driving is no longer controlled solely by the person behind the wheel. It's shared with technology. And while that may improve safety in some situations, it also introduces uncertainty. Because systems aren't perfect. Fatigue, distraction, or even normal human reactions can sometimes resemble unsafe behavior to an algorithm. And when that happens, the system may act, regardless of your intent. When you step back and look at everything together, the pattern becomes clear. This isn't a small update to driving laws, it's a complete transformation. Driving in 2026 is more monitored, more automated, more precise, and far less forgiving. The margin for error has narrowed across every part of the experience, and the people being affected the most? Not reckless drivers, not habitual offenders, but everyday drivers who simply haven't adjusted yet. So here's what actually matters moving forward. Keep your license plate fully visible and unobstructed. Place your phone only in clearly acceptable positions. Turn on headlights anytime your wipers are active. Remove anything hanging from your mirror. Make sure your insurance never lapses, even briefly. Treat construction zones as strict enforcement areas. Understand what data your vehicle is collecting and sharing. These aren't complicated changes, but they are essential because these rules aren't coming. They're already here, already active, already being enforced. And at this point, the advantage doesn't come from experience alone. It comes from awareness, because the drivers who stay informed adapt early, and the ones who don't usually find out the hard way.